Hey everyone, how we doing out there today? This is the Flip Flop Investor Show, and I am your host, Todd Bayer, the Flip Flop Investor himself. Every week we get together and talk about real estate investing here in the Inland Empire, and this week is no exception. We're going to do the exact same thing we do every week, but like every other week, what we like to do is bring in a different guest, somebody that's an expert in the real estate industry, and this week we have a industry veteran.
Industry veteran. What a wonderful title. I like that.
Well, I mean, I could call you a lot of other things. I thought that was the nicest.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, you could call me a lot of other things. I'll stick with veteran.
Veteran's good, yeah.
I don't think I want to hear all the other names, truth be told.
So,
troublemaker.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Opinionated, disruptor, you know.
All those wonderful things. So, for those of you that don't know who we're talking to Christina Sutter today. How you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you for inviting me. I'm super excited to be on the Flip Flop Investor Show. This is so cool. I've been hearing about it.
Yeah.
I've been hearing about it from you guys for a long time. It's
there's
your
some
club.
buzz. Yeah, there's some buzz.
Yeah, the Inland Empire Club, like the Flip Flop Investor Show. I mean, they're almost synonymous. Almost.
We we kind of have, a sort of a little ecosystem thing going on here where people show up, people come around. I don't know. So we started this new hot thing called radio. We thought, what a way to be progressive,
right?
Than to take something as old as real estate and put it with this new thing called radio. So that's what we're doing.
Well, and we were talking about developing community. I mean, our clubs allow there to be a community right there in the club itself. But, you put it out on radio and all of a sudden you've got a much wider and bigger community, more people who can hear you, learn from you, right? Gain experience, maybe get inspired to move into real estate.
And, and we're just taking a page out of your book because you have the For Investors by Investors Pasadena meeting, which
I do.
By far is probably our favorite Pasadena meeting. Okay,
it is right. It is your favorite Pasadena meeting because there's not very many Pasadena meetings.
But it's our favorite Phoebe meeting.
Oh, well, that's very kind. That's very kind.
And and there's some good Phoebe organizers out there. I mean, we love some of the people that are involved. Actually, I think we pretty much enjoy every member involved in Phoebe. But your event always has just been slightly different than everybody else's. Your Pasadena group. And I don't know what it is. I don't, and we think it's just because of you.
It's quirky me that leads to a quirky event. I think that's what it boils down to.
Is that what it is?
No, I do. I think it's what it boils down to. I mean, you know me. I'm very specific at the intro of my event. I'm very intentional in the way that I welcome my audience and my people. And I try to be, of course, a little funny and a little entertaining, but also, I'm very clear. It's a win-win club. It's a pay-it-forward club. Right. What are we here for? There's more than enough real estate. 80% of the world's wealth is in real estate. There's more than enough to go around for everybody who wants a piece of it. Mm-hmm. Stay true to who you are and be of integrity.
Absolutely.
So if you don't like any of those messages, then
you don't
have to come.
You can stay home.
You can stay home.
Go back to your devil worshipping meetings that you go to.
Well, I don't know if that's what they're up to, and if they are, I'm glad they don't tell me. Let's put it that way. But yeah.
So it's Phoebe stands for For Investors by Investors.
Yes,
I want to
does.
throw that out there because that's an important thing. It's other real estate investors that created a group, a community of other real estate investors, and that I've talked to a lot of people. I know you've talked to them too. That they come to these things with this preconceived notion, like this is just a networking mixer. Everybody's just going to be drunk, and it's not really productive in any sort of way. Like,
is that the preconceived idea? I'm afraid nobody filled me in on that. Todd, you should have sent me an email before I started my club so that I knew how to run it right. Because I completely missed the memo. Completely. I mean, we don't have any drinking there. We don't have any food. We have chocolate. I do give them chocolate, though.
That's right.
But I make people work for their chocolate.
Yeah.
I do. Well, I miss the drinking part and I miss the, being rowdy part. I guess, we're not quiet, to say the least, at our club. We do a lot of networking, a lot of talking, a lot of being loud, some being excited and stuff like that. But, I miss the whole, it's truly meant to be a mixer. In college, I think I missed most fraternity parties too. Yeah. So, I guess that's why I missed the memo.
Never got that part of it, huh?
No, I went to my first fraternity party. I drank half a beer. It was warm. I threw up. I was done.
Okay.
I was not into drinking anymore. Beer, no, that was fine. I can skip on the beer part. Beer and me aren't best friends, I've discovered.
Okay. It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
So we actually, I just got told today about a woman who left our club. She decided this was not for her.
Okay.
And so the person that she told, the reason why she was leaving, she didn't tell us. I don't know why she didn't tell the organizers, but she tells another member of the club why she's leaving and why she just can't handle it. And part of it was, Stephen has a bit of a potty mouth, and so
he does, but we count on that from him.
I know.
I mean, he keeps it real.
He does.
He really does.
And
you want it straight? Ask Stephen. He will explain to you in graphic detail whether it's fricked up or not.
Yeah. So she left because, one, the potty mouth,
okay.
and number two, she just wasn't getting anything out of it because there was no education. And I'm like, was she in the same room as everybody else?
Wow. No education. I mean, you guys do Q&As. It's nothing but about people's experiences, their depth in real estate, how they managed to make it through, what's the lessons they learned, how can they do their jobs better.
Yeah. And so the member of the club, this person who's been coming for years, he said to her, like, I don't think you got the point. Like, the point of it is not, they're not going to be up there giving a lecture.
Right.
This is not, they're not going to say, break out your textbooks to page 39 and let's begin.
Right.
Instead it's, here's a room full of people that do this and they're here to help you. That's your textbook. And these are people that actually do the business. Go learn from them, and we're going to put you in a room full of these people. So these people are willing to volunteer their time and their resources to help you out. And this woman just didn't seem to get it. So
well, it's not her gig. I mean, she can come to my Pasadena club, right? I mean, on the third Thursday, right? We have a club that has, organized networking,
right,
and an organized presenter, and you get to sit and you get to take notes and you get to ask questions, a lot like a school format. Yep. And so that would relate for her. But you guys, I mean, part of why you guys have, I think, the largest club in the Inland Empire for real estate, which has more members than my Phoebe club does.
Right? I don't know how it happened.
Oh, I know how it happened. You and Stephen set it as a goal to make it a successful club, and it is. I mean, you guys bring entertainment. You guys have coffees. You guys have, networking opportunities. You guys meet more than once a month.
Yeah, 5 times.
5 times, yeah, 5 times a month. And
so
to build a community.
Yeah, exactly. And there was some debate because like Bill Tan has his meeting out in
San Gabriel.
Yep. On the third or the second Wednesday of every month.
The second Wednesday, because originally I was the second Thursday, and then he started his meeting in one city away from my meeting. And he was the second Wednesday and I was the second Thursday. And I said, there's no way I can compete against Bill Tan's meeting.
Right.
So I moved my meeting to the third Thursday because there was no way.
Right.
So I'm very aware that it's the second Wednesday.
Exactly. And so, but we started a meeting on the second Wednesday. And there was a lot of kind of like inner debate about this because, we didn't want to compete with Bill Tan. Yeah. Bill Tan's got, one of the greatest meetings also. He's one of the greatest organizers. He had the big one down in San Diego. He was running for a long time.
He used to run SDCIA in San Diego, which was a very large meeting.
Yeah, huge. I mean, they're still, and their attendance is still much.
Over 100 people on a regular basis.
Every time, So we were kind of like, do we do it? And we're like, well, let's talk about our community. This is the Inland Empire community.
Right.
And they're not driving to San Gabriel.
No.
Like some people will make it out to Pasadena. Some people go to Orange County. But by and large, the people in the community are nearly 5,000 members of the group don't want to drive that far. So
that's right.
We're like, as much as we love Bill and as much as we don't want to compete, we need to create something on that day that fills that void that we have in our group right now, which is what Bill provides. Right. So we created a deal valuation Shark Tank style.
Okay.
Bring your deal and we'll rip it apart in front of the crowd. And so that's what we did last night.
Okay, and how'd it go?
Went really well. We had 7 deals presented.
Oh, good.
And, we ripped them apart, every single one of them. Nobody got off easy. And, the people that were up there in the hot seat will tell you they were all, extremely intimidated, probably a little frazzled at the end of it. But 2 of the deals were decent rentals.
Good.
That if you're looking for like a 6.5% return on your money, they're decent rentals in San Bernardino.
With appreciation, without appreciation?
Without, just straight.
Just great.
If you bought
cash
it today,
and cash, 6.5%. Yeah, they can pay my mortgage down. I love having renters and tenants that pay my mortgage down. They make the property more valuable. That's great.
You get it.
6.5 is great. You add a little appreciation there. You add a little pay down. You end up getting 12%, 13% return after that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, then there was that. And then there was one at the very end. The last one we looked at was a flip opportunity. And I mean, this was an extremely fat deal. Lots of room in it. And we're like, yes, this
Yes.
is a great deal. Anybody in
Go
the
for
room,
it.
if you want this thing, here's the guy.
Here's what it looks like.
Yeah, we looked at it. I gave it my stamp of approval.
Right.
So I think he got it sold last night too, to multiple people. So there's
Oh,
probably a
okay.
bidding war thing.
Okay.
I'll find out in a
So
couple days.
maybe by the time it's done, there won't be quite so much fat on the deal after they bid up the wholesale price a little bit.
That's what it was. Yeah, because he was going to wholesale it for I think $105,000, and we said we could buy it for $190.
Okay.
That's pretty fat for a
That's
wholesale
pretty
fee.
Fat for a wholesale fee. Yeah.
So he's thinking about it. He's got multiple options now.
Yeah.
But we tore it apart. There was a lot of
That's
elements
good.
to it. So that was that's kind of what Bill does. Bill's very deal oriented. He wants people in the group to be doing deals together. So that's what we're pushing for. You push for it too.
Yeah, but I don't steward it the way that you're talking about.
True.
I mean, I push for it. I push for community. I push for people knowing each other. I try to get experts in the room, newbies in the room. I try to have content for all of them. The networking is very important for the experts in the room because that allows them to cultivate their network.
Yep.
And they know to cultivate their network. They know that that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
They may or may not be there for the education.
Right.
But the new investors are there for the education.
Yeah.
And I try to remind them that they're there for the networking, even though it usually scares them a little bit.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, I'm supposed to talk to like 3 people tonight. I'm like, yes, 3 people. Just pick 3 people,
Yeah.
right? Right on the card, whether you like the person or not, or are they a jerk, right? Do you ever want to see them again, or do you want to throw them under a bus, right?
Right.
Or are they of integrity, and are they competent in their field?
Sure.
Because you're going to need those cards. You're going to need that network as you develop and grow your portfolio. You may not need them this year, but you might need them 2 years from now.
Exactly.
Right? So, but running the deals and breaking the deals apart has got to be incredibly helpful. I mean, that's stuff people pay money for, to be able to get experts like you and Steven to break a deal apart.
Yeah.
And truly show them, okay, here's how you run the numbers. Here's how it's going to make it successful. Here's why it's not successful. Here's what you missed, right? And they've got to learn a lot in that format
Sure.
if they're actually active in the field.
Right. And for the people that brought the deals that weren't deals, it was good for them because we said this is how you can
Yeah.
make it a deal.
Right.
Or
don't do it this way, or buy it at this price instead of the price you originally arranged.
Exactly. Because what better way to learn than to kind of run deals? I mean, I've run thousands of deals scenarios myself.
Yep.
And I've determined these are not deals,
Yeah.
or these are deals, or this is something I should pursue further. So, you get good at it by doing it by repetition. It's just the nature of the beast. So, so you got the club, but then you also have, we followed in your footsteps again with the radio thing, but you have like 2 radio shows.
Yes, I have. I had 1 radio show. I now have 2. That is correct. I don't know if you followed in my footsteps. I think of you guys as being truly independent thinkers. I'm just saying. I think you guys are perfectly capable of mapping your own trajectory outside of me. You and Stephen in particular, I think, are a very powerful combo that way.
We try.
But yeah, no, you do good. But yeah, no, I do. I have 2. I have the Ask Christina First, which I'm actually going to keep up. We're now moving it over to a podcast.
Okay.
Because like this show, once it airs, people can't find it anymore. I wasn't archiving it. It wasn't available on the station's archive or anything like that. So now it's going to be a podcast. So we're re-releasing over 3 years worth of those shows 1 week at a time. So it's going to take 3 years to release.
Got
3
it.
years. Although I did the show for at least 5 or 6 years. So we've only picked what we felt like were the 3 years that were the best, and kind of threw away some of the other ones that maybe weren't so good. No, not every show is going to be good. Not every show is going to have valuable information in it. So we're doing that. And then there's the Real Estate Breakthrough, and that's my new show.
That's the new one.
That's the new one, Real Estate Breakthrough. And I'm going to try. We'll see. I'm going to start with live interviews with newer investors.
Okay.
And see if I can break them through them understanding where their success is going to be in real estate. So that's the purpose of the Real Estate Breakthrough.
I like it.
And I'm going to interview experts, people who are mostly, in the past, I've interviewed the speakers that are on my stage in Phoebe, Pasadena.
Yeah.
And instead of asking them, like, what are they going to talk about and, what's their topic and making it educational, it's like, okay, so what was your hardest experience? How'd you live through it? How'd you break through to the other side?
Yeah.
How'd it make you better as a human being and
Right.
a person as an investor? And when did you get financially free? When did you break through to being financially free in the field of real estate? I'm hoping people will learn, like your Q&As. I'm hoping people will learn, not from them being educated by an expert with a series of topic 1 says due diligence starts this way,
right?
But inspired by, well, what does it take to be a professional investor in real estate? It takes a lot of cojones, a little bit of craziness, some creativity, but mostly a lot of strength, the willingness to show up over and over and over again.
Absolutely, yeah. Showing up. 9/10 of it, But so
yes, even when it's hard though. Like I'm flying to Indianapolis. I'm going to fly Friday night from Los Angeles to Indianapolis on a 5-hour red eye. I'm going to look at a bunch of properties that a wholesaler is going to show me.
Okay.
And then I'm flying back Saturday evening.
Very, very fun.
Right? Like, hey, isn't that, see, exactly. That's fun.
It is
to
fun.
us real estate investors, that's actually fun.
Yeah.
It's like, woohoo. Yeah, let's go do it.
Like, yeah, I'm going to be tired.
I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to be exhausted.
It's going to be fun.
But it's going to be fun. And I'm going to look at a bunch of properties in Indianapolis, which I'm hoping to purchase. And there's this younger girl who's helping me do my analysis and research because, I'm a bit of a data head. And I found somebody who's even more of a data head than I am.
Oh, good.
Right? To do some analysis and research for me on Indianapolis. And so I texted her today and said, hey, I'm going to go on Saturday. You want to go with me? I'm going just for the day. And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll go. I'm like, okay, good. Let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Eventually I'll probably start doing more stuff out of state. I've only done one deal out of state at this point, which is a new development. This happened within the last couple of weeks. So funded a loan.
Congratulations.
Yeah, first time.
That's
I'm a
great.
first timer now. And it was easy, actually. I'd never done a deal in another state, so I don't, I know how we do things in California. I didn't.
Right.
This is in Tennessee. I had no idea how things operate. I don't know if this is a trust deed state. I don't know if it's a escrow state. I don't know anything, but people are tremendously helpful when they know things. So, I'm good at getting people to tell me what I need to know. So I just asked them. I mean, I don't know why so many people have a hard time with this concept. If you don't know something, go ask somebody that does,
Go ask somebody who does. Yeah.
And they tell you. It's amazing. Not only did they tell me, but they did it all for me. They did all the paperwork, Yeah. I didn't have to do anything. It was the easiest transaction I think we've ever done, and
congratulations.
It's done.
So what is it going to be? It's a ground-up development?
This is a guy who buys rental property out in Tennessee.
Okay.
And this is a rental. It's already rented.
Oh,
It's been rented. It's keeping the same tenant.
Yeah.
He's the investor's here. He's in California. This is just where he does all of his stuff. He buys it all there because you can buy a rental property that rents for $600, but buy it for $30,000.
Yes.
So,
yes. That's right.
For him, he's like this. Why wouldn't I buy every single one that comes up on the market? He's thinking, what am I missing?
I can have a conversation with him about that. I've owned out of state. I own, Knoxville, Tennessee, Texas, Virginia, Oregon, Hawaii, and California.
Yeah.
Southern California. So I've owned, in state and out of state. So I have the experience to compare. Like, what does it mean to have cash flow properties out of state? And what does it mean to do flipping in state? What does it mean to try to find cash flow properties in Southern California in particular?
Right.
Bakersfield, Kern County isn't so hard. Apple Valley, right, isn't so hard. Right. Riverside, some of it
depends on what you're willing to make.
Yeah, some of it cash flow, some of it not so much.
Right.
I'm no longer willing to go negative on a property, so I'm
that's weird. What an interesting investment strategy to not go negative.
Not go negative on a property. I know. Sorry, I guess I'm going to be an old lady. You know, I don't want to go negative anymore.
That's so bizarre. All the investors I've ever met, they're always like, go negative every time.
Negative, really, go negative. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was funny. I got just saying the word negative. I was driving the other day, just, getting in my headspace, thinking like, whatever happened to negative AM? Like neg AM
loans.
Yeah, negative advertising loans. And I'm thinking, is there a way we could do this? It's like, wait a second, this is like the worst idea in history. Why am I even thinking about this right now?
Don't do a neg AM loan
as
a lending company.
I'm like, why am I even thinking about this right now? It's a terrible idea.
Because our brains go off on crazy tangents, and sometimes they're useful.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're not.
Like I break out my financial calculator. I'm like, okay, balloon payment at the end for half the balance, I guess.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because
this is a bad idea. I was like, it was just funny.
Well,
you said
I'm glad
negative
you
stuff.
Simply reconfirmed what the U.S. unintentionally declared in 2007, which is neg AM loans don't work, and here's why they fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway. So you got the radio shows.
Oh, yes, I have the radio shows. iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify. We're also going to be recording them, like you're doing here.
Yep.
We're going to record it. We're also going to put on Amazon TV and Roku. So it's going to be on all these platforms coming up, which I'm excited about. I'm grateful. It's the same station I was working with before, and they're going to be posting them all up on those platforms, which means I don't have to manage it.
Which is the best part.
Which is the best part in the world. It's awesome.
Exactly. It's worth it, And yeah, all of our good friends here at KCAA, they keep
That's
everything
right.
running,
That's
We got
right.
Nick over there, the board op. He's
nodding his
listening in.
head. Yep, giving us
He's
a thumbs up. That's
He's
right.
just making sure that we don't, let go an F-bomb. Whenever Steve's on the show.
I see.
Nick's got his finger on the button.
On the button,
ready to
go.
go.
Right. Well, I'm not quite as bad as Steve, so I'm just warning you, but I do every once in a while, say an SHIT here and there. So I'm just saying, oh, he's prepared. He's ready. He's ready. He's right there. He's ready.
Nice. So
let's talk about in-state, out-of-state.
Okay.
Unless you have a topic that you want to go into that I'm, stalling you on or something.
Nope.
No, in-state,
Nope.
out-of-state.
We got plenty of time.
So the advantages of owning out-of-state in cash flow positive areas like Knoxville, Tennessee, where I had multiple units in Knoxville, Tennessee. I had 30 units, some fourplexes, and I didn't have a single family.
You're saying had. Is this past?
Past
You do not
tense.
have any of these anymore.
No, done. I sold them. And I can go into that story too. But the point is I don't have them anymore.
Okay.
The disadvantage of those is that when you're getting like $150 to $200 a door, right, then you get a roof leak,
Right.
or you get a broken fence, or you get a pipe that bursts.
Sure.
Right? Snow country, you get pipes that burst.
Absolutely.
Right? Not that Knoxville, Tennessee is that snowy. It's not. But just saying.
It's cold enough.
It's cold enough. Pretty much you can wipe out your income for the year.
On one major repair.
Right? So if you're getting $200 a month, that's $2,400 a year.
Sure.
You can get one major repair, and that repair can wipe you out for the year.
Yeah.
That is the problem with that. But since you don't really have it available very well in the high-end properties, pretty much in almost all major cities, your high-end properties are not going to be cash flow positive.
Right.
Pretty much. I can't,
Yeah.
I haven't researched every major city, right? But I know that in your first cities, you got to consider your primary cities: California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, a lot of the major cities in Texas. I'm trying to think of cities I can actually stand. Like if I say it, I can actually prove the numbers of it. But we'll stop there, just so I don't make too much of a fool of myself. But in a lot of the major cities that I've looked in, your Class A properties are not going to make you much cash flow.
Right.
You're going to have a lot of money in it. You're going to have a good quality property. You're going to have a better quality tenant.
Sure.
Right. But you're not going to make a lot of cash on cash. So the concept of $200 a door, but you only put $30,000 into it.
Right.
So now you're getting an 8%, 6.5% in your previous, client's example,
That was
6.5%.
San Bernardino, but
Or
this is
8%.
different.
See, San Bernardino's great, right? Then you just end up with that problem.
Right.
So it's not a bad thing, but it does mean that I encourage people to have multiple units because not every unit's going to have a problem.
At the same time,
At
yeah.
the same time. So if you have 10 units, right, and you have one a year that has a major system that goes awry, you have the other 9 units. Almost like managing your vacancy factor.
Exactly.
Same thing in an apartment building. You got 10 doors in an apartment building. You have one door empty. You still have the other 9 doors bringing you cash flow.
Right.
So you start managing and chunking together your single families almost like a multi-unit
Right.
inside of that state so that you have other buildings helping to support your cost
Right.
of maintenance, not just a vacancy factor like a unit's empty, but the cost of maintenance.
Yeah, and so I kind of did the same thing when I had my rental properties because,
you
across all of them, some of them were pretty good. I had like a 12% cap rate on one, other one I had like a 5. And like really across all of them, they blended to be a 6% yield is what I was getting across all the properties I had. And
Cash on cash versus total return?
Cash on cash.
Okay.
Yep. So, looking into it, I'm like thinking, okay, this is okay. I'm doing all right. I'm beating most stockbrokers out there. However, this is actually very terrible for real estate, for the real estate investing world because I could do much better than this.
You could.
That's what got me into lending in the first place.
Okay.
I look at lending and I'm thinking like I could do so much better lending money out. That same capital I could have taken and put it out into loans and earned a much higher return. So that's what prompted me to basically sell.
Okay.
I like lending so much more than rentals.
Okay.
Because here you're talking, you just said like your roof breaks, your water heater blows, or whatever happens, your pipes burst, and you lose your entire income for the year. Yeah. That sounds terrible for the owner of that rental property. However, I'm still going to send him my bill each month. It's still due on the 1st. And if he pays, great. I'll see him next month. If he doesn't pay,
then I might see him in court.
I got about 10 minutes of work to do. I got to make a couple phone calls, and then we'll get it taken care of. You know, but that's why I like lending. It to me is the most passive form of investing in real estate.
While still getting a higher return.
While still getting a decent return. Right. You know, on that deal out in Tennessee, it's 12% amortized over 10 years.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Well, I switched over, as you know, from owning doors to doing all my own, lending out my own capital. Right. So I don't know if they call it hard money lending or private equity officially. I kind of go back and forth between the two titles.
Yeah, it interchanges.
Right? It interchanges. And I'll tell you, it was so nice to not have tenants, tantrums, toilets, teenagers, tidal waves, tide pools, whatever the problem is that you've got associated with real estate. You know, trash. I mean, it's just, how can a whole building be confused on how to use a trash bin? Explain that to me. I swear. It's just like,
you know, I used to manage my own properties too, you know. And I actually didn't start out that way. I started out because I didn't know what I was doing. So I hired a property manager.
Oh, that's good.
To manage them at first.
That's good.
But then the property manager wasn't doing a very good job because I just randomly one day went and drove by all the properties.
Yes.
And saw all the things that I wasn't being told about. You know, knocked on a couple of the doors, and one of the tenants told me their water heater was out. That was it for me. Okay. I'm like, they're fired. I'm taking over. So, you know, you can't not have a water heater. I mean, that's like literally one of the things you have to provide.
Right. You do. You have a distinct liability problem if you're not providing fresh water or running water.
They were packing up.
Yeah.
Because the owner wasn't fixing it. And I'm like, but I'm the owner.
I'm the owner. Of course
I didn't even know your water heater was out.
Right.
I would have fixed it right away.
Right.
Property manager didn't tell me. So I dropped property management and took it over myself.
Right.
And then I got to deal with these things firsthand.
Yes.
And there's a lot I didn't know about still because, you know, I was blind to the, fact of what was going on. But, you know, taking over the management myself, it's like you just said, how do you not know how to do this? How are you still alive? You know, not knowing how to turn off a breaker and turn a breaker back on. Do I really need to show up right now to show you how to do this? You know? And so it kind of
sometimes we do.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So we both took Dave Tilney's hassle-free property management class.
Right.
We were actually the same exact class. We went. I didn't know you were going to be there. I don't think you knew I was going to be there.
I didn't know you guys were going to be there either. No.
But we showed up. Me, Steve, and Jim. Actually, that was the day of our first radio show here on KCAA. We did the show and got in the car. We all drove to Vegas together.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
It was good.
So we missed day 2. I don't know why. No.
I know why. Should I tell everybody why?
Perhaps. Yeah, maybe for
I got a text page on my phone of you guys hanging out by the pool.
Oh yeah. There might have been a
drink here we are learning about David Tilney's approach by the pool. Sorry, David, if you're listening, we apologize.
It's
there was definitely a drink involved.
There was, yeah. Yes. You know, but that was a nice day.
It was a beautiful day. It was a good choice. But I being the studio student who actually went to class in college and actually didn't go to fraternity parties, I admit it, was actually still inside David Tilney's class.
Yes.
I was. But I was busy networking, trying to make friends with people who, knew more about real estate than I did.
Right. And at that same meeting, there were some very influential people there. Gary Johnson was there. There was a few other people that are like, oh wow, look at all these people at this meeting.
Yeah, I was trying to befriend Gary Johnston. My husband did it much better than I did.
Yeah, because he's more the engineer type.
He
actually is an engineer.
Actually, he is an engineer. Yeah, he's actually literally an engineer, and he actually has all the education to prove it.
Exactly.
And for the longest time, I never took him with me to any of these real estate events because I'm the extrovert, the chitty chatty, blah blah blah, talk people up. And then when I take him, I'm chitty-chatting with everybody else, and then he's in the back with the big guys, with the heavy investors, having conversations about engineering and mathematics and systems, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, the introvert who doesn't like going to events, who's an engineer who only talks to a few people, ends up like really anchoring with the big hitters in the room. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to take you with me a lot more often.
Yeah, I ended up hitting it off with the guy that just started putting money into his first, Roth IRA,
Right.
He's got it halfway funded for the year. Yeah. That's the guy I spent an hour with.
And I love spending, me, I love spending time with new investors, right? That's why I have my mastermind program is specifically for new investors.
Yep.
Right. And so I will hang out with new investors, and I even set up a whole way to support them because I don't know. I love seeing people developing, transforming, creating something better than what they had before.
Yeah.
But, I have to kind of still almost prove myself to the old guys. I mean, it's not that I think it's easier now that I've been doing this for, several years, and I've run my meeting, and I have my radio show, and I have more of a presence, and I talk at other clubs, and I run my mastermind and my mentorship programs and all that. Like, now that I'm both an investor and a professional in the field, I think it's easier. People go, oh yeah, you're really here to stay. We're going to have to deal with you.
Right. Yeah. So, we'll put up with you for now. No.
At least for now. At least until I get run over by a bus or,
something. Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? Keel over from old age. I don't know.
It's all possible, you know. But the interesting thing about the new people, because I share that passion with you in that, like, for me, I was always kind of against the status quo. I was never the normal guy in school.
Really?
I had my own.
The status quo? That is so
weird.
Surprising to me.
I know. You think I'm such a straight ball kind of.
Well, in comparison to Stephen,
square.
you are the straight guy, but
sure, he is pretty. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. No,
Stephen's good. Stephen's really good. He busts his ass to get shit done.
Yes, he does.
He really does.
Yeah.
He really does. And he comes up with new ideas and creative ways to do it. And I don't know how many he comes up with, right? Because he's talking to you, not me. But the ones that I end up hearing about, I'm like, oh, that's freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Right?
Once it becomes a public thing, it's because Steve and I have discussed it.
Okay.
From every
Cultivated
angle.
it.
Because I'm not a contrarian, I'm not a devil's advocate per se, but I'm good at playing that role. So Steve will have a new idea. I have new ideas. We're both creative people in that regard. But with Steve, it's like until he said it for the third time to me, I won't pay attention to it because he's always come up with new things and like little things here and there. It's just a little tweak. It's like instead of going to 10, maybe go to 9.5 on this. And like I don't pay attention to 90% of that stuff just because he needs to develop the idea in his own mind a little bit more before it becomes a reality. And, then we talk about it. Once he's like, kind of like the tiny home thing. We're starting the tiny home. Like he talked about that for a long time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he started saying, you know what, I've looked at this from every angle that I can think of. And he's like, once he came to me at that point, we're actually driving down to look at one of the properties. I remember him saying this to me. Mm-hmm. Like, I've thought about this from so many angles. I'm like, okay, you've been talking about this for a while. Like, what do you want to do?
Right.
And
what is it? What's
like,
the idea?
He's like, I want to stop flipping houses and I want to build tiny homes exclusively.
Okay.
And so when he says something like that, it's like, okay, you want to do a complete 180 right now, which we've already done before.
Right.
We went from lending to flipping. Now let's stop flipping and move into building tiny homes, which we've never done either. So like, are you crazy? And he says, well, I want to build these and I'll just sell them and rent them out. That's what he wanted to do. And I'm like, why do you want to rent them? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, have you ever had a rental property? Because I know he hasn't.
No, he's been a flipper.
Exactly.
He's not been a rental landlord like you and I have.
Exactly.
So he doesn't know about all the tenants, tantrums, toilets, teenagers, trash, and everything else.
Right. And he's been a renter, and he himself is a great tenant. I would love to have him as a tenant, in a property. But, I'm like, why do you want to rent him? I was like, let's just finance him instead. And he's like, hold on a second, that's probably a better idea. And I'm like, of course it's a better idea.
Right, because now we're back to loans. Mm-hmm. We had like 2 topics ago of how much easier it is to hold a note.
Yep.
And how much easier it is to get a note to continue to perform.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was going to say. I went from owning all these doors to selling all the doors to doing nothing but loans.
Right.
And then my life got peaceful. I was like,
isn't that
wow,
weird?
isn't that amazing? Like, it's so much easier, right?
Yeah.
To be able to lend the money out and collect the checks and keep track of the checks in the little Excel spreadsheet and go check. Yep, it showed up.
Yeah.
Here we go. This one's here. This one's here. This one's here. And it made it much easier because I was freshly married and I was pregnant and I wanted to, I wanted to be able to, fresh and married, trying to get pregnant. I wanted to clean the decks. Mm-hmm. Way too stressful. Got married in September of 2006.
Yep.
Stress was off the charts because as the market was slipping in 2007 and we're trying to get pregnant.
Right.
And so it's like,
Great time.
I need to find a great time to try to get pregnant. Right. Just, given them all of my income and I was a professional in the field. Right. So I had retired in 2002, 2003, I was a retired, had enough that I could actually retire.
Right.
Wasn't working any jobs, was just doing real estate. But yeah, it was incredibly stressful, but it's really much easier. Right. Once I sold everything, faced the devil that it was there in front of me, made it all straight, sold everything, took my losses the way I needed to, and turned into hard money lending, it was really a lot more peaceful.
Yeah.
It really is much easier. And you can make very similar returns. You just, as an investor, right, when you get the checks, the primary problem for me, my primary mind shift that I had to understand was to go, that whole check is now not going to include appreciation.
Right.
So I may be getting 10%, 12% cash on cash instead of 6 to 8% cash on cash.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't get that extra pay down from the tenant on my principal balance on my house. I'm also not getting the appreciation on the entire balance. So, I'm not getting that cash on cash 6.5% effective return, but then total return being 12 to 13%.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like, I can spend all of that, I can live on all of that, but then my portfolio won't grow.
Right.
So it's much easier.
Sure.
Right. Due diligence is just as hard as it was trying to buy something.
Mm-hmm.
Once I put it out there, it's out there for anywhere from 6 months to 3 years, depending upon what vehicle I'm using.
Right.
And I just collect checks.
Yeah.
But I need to make sure I manage my understanding of how I want to retire.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to collect all of it and use that for living expenses.
I don't want to use all of it for living expenses. Otherwise, I'm, sabotaging my retirement. So I had to readjust my thinking as an investor to make sure I was taking care of my retirement while I was taking care of my day-to-day.
Yeah.
So that was 2 subjects ago.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But it's, I'm glad you went back to it. I have a tendency to, we start talking, then we just go off on tangents, and we never come back to it. And
well, yeah, the other tangent is you're going to talk about how you were, a bit of a rule breaker as a teenager and a young man in college.
I started going down that road, and I was
did.
like, let's just go with what you want to talk
about. Oh, really?
About. I mean, you're the guest. I don't, I'm just some guy, They gave me a microphone. Big mistake. That was their first
big mistake. I don't know how you managed to convince them to give you a microphone.
Yeah.
I swear.
So, but we were talking about, I was saying my passion that I share with you is just showing people there's another way. Because you go to school, you learn the way it's done. You go to school, you go to college, you get married, have 2.5 kids, and you work for some company for 30 to 40 years. At the end, you get a gold watch, and you retire, play some golf, and then you die. Right? That's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan.
You know, and maybe you get to see some grandkids in there. Throw in a few vacations and stuff. Like that's your life. That's what you get. So I always hated the idea that from the very beginning, like as far back as I can remember, like I never wanted to retire. I don't know what it was. It just didn't seem great to me. Like my grandparents, they had dementia when they retired. Like it just, they slipped so fast. Like it's just, for me, it's like you stop working, you just stop having a purpose, it seems, and you just sort of wither away. That's kind of the way I saw it. But this is me at like 5 years old in elementary school thinking like, I need to do something.
I need to do something. That's good.
That's
good. So you worked that at 5, watching your grandparents.
Right.
Right.
Like my grandfather died when I was in like 3rd grade, I think.
Okay.
My dad's dad. And so I, just seeing that happen, but leading up to that time, he was gone. I don't think he knew who I was, So, because he was gone. He was gone mentally.
Right, to dementia.
Right. So, for me, it was kind of like, I like the idea of people that have kind of come to this realization, no matter where they are in life, where they've said, there's this thing, and I think I could do it. I just want to I love when people are willing to just kind of like take a chance at something, to like change their life for the better, because you learn this now, like you see it, it's all over the place, at least on my Facebook feed. I'm sure you get it too. You see every single make money at home opportunity. Like it just shows up on our doorstep because we're a likely kind of candidate. But other people, somehow it shows up on their thing, and maybe it was fortune builders that, they saw, and they end up going to one of these like real estate seminars, or maybe it's one of these shows on TV, HGTV or something. That's what draws them in, and what I love is to like show them, yes, this is entirely possible. You can make a living for yourself. You can become wealthy. You don't have to punch a time card and go 9 to 5. Right. And so I think my favorite thing to do is to get somebody out of that thing, like to pull somebody over into our side. I don't know, something about it. I just love doing it because I was told by everybody growing up that I'm crazy, that's that special people do that. That's Bill Gates, He was an exception to the rule, and I don't believe it. I don't believe that he was an exception. He obviously was a little strange, He just did something. Yeah. But he started going down the path too. I mean, he went to Harvard and dropped out. So,
He did, but he also, he was doing programming in his garage and all that way before he ever went to Harvard. Right. He was already showing, or like you at 5, right? Yeah. He was already showing like, I'm passionate about this. Mm-hmm. This is what draws me forward. This is who I want to be. This is what I'm going to create myself to be, whether I'm conscious to it or not.
Yeah.
Right? He was doing that. And then he, dropped out of Harvard because he went, well, this isn't me.
Right.
Right? This isn't me.
Yeah. And it's, it's very similar. I mean, I know you had kind of a similar childhood. Like you weren't, you didn't want to go down you didn't want to walk the normal path.
All right. No. See, now you stepped into my childhood. Now, that's a complicated topic, right?
Of
We
course.
only got like so many minutes left here.
Got about 15 minutes.
I
Plenty
know.
of time.
Okay.
And we haven't even talked about your book yet, but we're going to get there.
No, we haven't even talked about my book yet. It's it's a book I share with a lot of other women.
True.
So
You're right in the middle of it.
right in the middle
And
of
you know
it.
what? I was going to bring it. It's sitting nice and neatly on my desk, so I wouldn't forget
It's sitting
it.
in my bag over there. And You've Got This is, I believe, the title of the book.
Yep,
You've Got This. Really, it was Deborah Razzo who pulled it all together.
Yep.
She grabbed a bunch of women, all women. You
Yep.
Got This is a book about women's stories. And I was reading it actually on my way here. And we just talk about our stories. We talk about what are the lessons we learned in real estate? How did we get started? Where did we get to? What are the tips or tricks or, primary lessons that we would like to have newer investors learn from listening to our story? And, it's the heart of the entrepreneur. I mean, it's just whether we're women or whether we're men,
Yep.
do we have the heart of the entrepreneur? I mean, what I love about being an entrepreneur and what I think you're talking to as well is feeling on purpose. I think my husband felt on purpose as an engineer. Like that really was what made him happy.
Yeah.
He started to do his story very quickly. Like he started in Rock Island, Illinois, in a very bad neighborhood where he was pretty much almost the only white kid.
Okay.
Okay, just saying.
Yeah.
Right. Sort of like the reverse story, right? Like
Right.
he was the only white kid in an all-black neighborhood, an African American neighborhood.
Right.
And so literally his parents kept him in the backyard rather than going out and playing because the whorehouse was across the street.
Sure.
Yeah, like that's where he grew up.
Not a good place to play as a
Not
kid.
a good place to play.
Yeah.
And his dad was a floor sander. His mom was a secretary or a seamstress, depending upon what she was doing, that year.
Sure.
And he went to, high school, finished high school, and his way out was education.
Yeah.
He used that big brain of his, which he definitely has as an engineer.
Of course.
He is your typical engineer, all brain.
Right.
Not too much people, right? And an introvert, a strong introvert. But he used that brain to get, a bachelor's and a master's and a PhD, and he became an instructor
Yep.
in Alabama. He became instructor, Georgia. He became instructor in Albany State, which is a primarily African-American college.
Okay.
Right? No great surprise, right? Since he grew up in that culture was comfortable for
Sure.
him. And he did that for 8 years. And then he was an engineer. He was an engineer with Lockheed, he was an engineer with General Dynamics, and that was on purpose for him.
Yeah.
Like that really served him in his life's purpose.
Exactly.
But there was no way it was going to serve me.
No.
I from the beginning, I was loud and obnoxious and had a hard time sitting still, was later diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD.
Sure.
Put into special ed, right, for 2.5 years.
Because they got to put you in some kind of a box.
They kind of, well, I
You
guess
know?
so.
Everybody's
got to
get put into some kind of a box, it
Yeah, I
seems,
guess
you know?
that was their box, and I was told I wasn't going to be able to make it through college,
course
right? That
not,
my
no.
family should not expect me to be able to make it through college.
God,
So
that's
I-
such a horrible thing to say
so
to somebody.
I proved them wrong, right? I got my bachelor's, I got my master's, right? If a bachelor's wasn't good enough,
Right.
F you to them, right?
Of
I got
course.
my master's as well.
Like that's what entrepreneurs have is like that middle finger.
We
to, like,
do,
all the people
right?
that said
It's
you
like,
couldn't do
you
something.
say you can't do it, like,
Like-
I'm good, do it.
Like that's like I find like all the times where like I jump to the next level in this world
Mm-hmm.
or in this entrepreneurial thing. It's because somebody said I couldn't do
couldn't do
something,
it,
and I'm
yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna do it now.
Okay,
like
now
I
you do
wasn't gonna really, but now I'm gonna.
Yeah, now you've laid it in front of me as something I just have to get done.
Exactly. Just because I want to go back to you in a few years and be like, oh, I did that thing you said I couldn't do, and
Right,
now
exactly.
I'm doing it.
Now
you
I'm
know?
doing it. Yeah, no, I know you and Stephen are both that way.
Yeah.
I love that about you guys.
I
You
know.
really are.
We have to check ourselves at some point. Like,
Right,
do we
exactly.
really,
Right, is it really on purpose? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you do have to ask the question, like, is it really on purpose for me to do that? Is it a good use of my time? Am
Exactly.
I fulfilling what, my entrepreneurial spirit in a healthy, sound way?
Exactly.
But I think the heart of an entrepreneur and being able to be an entrepreneur, I think is ingrained.
Yeah.
I mean, I think literally, like I said, my husband's a great example of that being on purpose for him. I would never succeed well in the educational environment. I love research. I got my master's in psychology, my bachelor's is in business. I have a teacher's credential, right?
Right.
So I have all, I have all of that. And I loved my neuropsych class.
Mm-hmm.
I loved my neuropsych class. I mean, really, I took just neuropsych. It was 8 weeks, totally delved into it, just did that homework.
Yeah.
Right. And here I am, this dyslexic, person doing neuropsych with words I barely can read,
Right.
barely work out. But I loved it because I loved the learning and I loved the knowledge and I loved the data. And I actually have a data head, which I really enjoy using. But I'm an entrepreneur. Ultimately, what it boils down to is I use my data head and I use what would have done well in school to fulfill what my nature is, which is being an entrepreneur.
Which is being rebellious in a way. Which
It's charting your own course. And if charting your own course requires rebellion. See, my mom charted her own course.
Right.
Right? So my mom was an entrepreneur. So being an entrepreneur unto itself wasn't inherently rebellious. It was what my mom did. It was a perfectly viable course. I could have done college or I could have been an entrepreneur. My mom would not have been upset with me for either one.
But your husband, by contrast, was entirely a rebel.
Because
he did the opposite of what everybody else did.
He was entirely a rebel. He did the opposite of what everybody else did in the neighborhood. He could have opened a whorehouse, or he would have been perfectly good at creating meth, honestly.
Yeah.
He would have been. He's a great engineer.
We saw that. What is that? Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad?
Smart guy. He was a college professor.
Exactly. He would have been really good at, anything involved in complex engineering. My husband, mathematics in particular, my husband can handle it.
Right.
But he decided that wasn't for him. He didn't want to be in that path.
Yeah.
So therefore, the point of the whole conversation we've just had, which seems light and fluffy, is if you're an entrepreneur, follow your heart, follow being an entrepreneur. There is a huge amount of successful people in real estate. It's not just the Bill Gates and who's the Apple guy?
Oh, Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs. It's not just, there you go. See, it's dyslexia. I'm horrible at names. It's not just Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett, who are the people who have the brains or the right or the charisma or the dynamic to follow their heart to create a new way for themselves.
Yeah.
There are tons of us. There's me, there's you, there's Steven, there's Bill Tan. I mean, I run into so many people in this field who are ADHD or dyslexic or free spirits or, rebels.
Right.
Right. And they're creating their own life, and you don't have to be this big time person. You really can just say, I will because I choose to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will educate myself and I will get myself there by using my own dedication, my own focus, and my own will. Now, real estate's one of those things that will challenge you, though.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny you mentioned dyslexia, because this actually was a topic we brought up yesterday. We had somebody had come into the office and we were just talking. He said his son has dyslexia and he's down about it because this is something he just found out about himself. So his son's really upset and he wants to help his son relate a little bit because there's a lot of people that have dyslexia who are famous, who are well off and all this.
Tons.
And we started looking through a list of people.
Einstein being the most famous.
Einstein,
right? Go ahead.
But so is Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter. The kid that plays Harry Potter. He's that was the one he could relate to. He's a huge Harry Potter fan.
Oh,
so,
perfect.
He's like, oh my, he's dyslexic. Wow, look at what he did. And so we were just looking through this list, and Richard Branson is dyslexic. I want to say it was. I think was it Steve Jobs? I can't remember, but there's a few people on this list.
I could see Steve Jobs being dyslexic. He has that charismatic personality that a lot of dyslexics end up having.
Right.
We do. We end up being chatty and outgoing and using our words because we can't use writing.
Yep.
And so we end up being good verbal communicators because it's our primary skill that we have in life. And actually, as an adult, it serves really, really well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the backhand of the dyslexia is all the adaptation skills that you do to create your competency. You're letting your intelligence have competency, right? And if it's not going to work this channel, well, then I'm going to work it through this channel because, darn it, I really am a competent human being.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not succeeding here, I do succeed here. And I guess in that way it is the rebel but once you're in college and it's not about writing a perfect essay anymore. It's about being able to work as a team, being able to communicate, being able to strategize, being able to plan, being able to research, where it's no longer about can I write it on a piece of paper. Yeah. It actually really serves. So
it's and you talked about neuropsychology. I mean, when you talk about dyslexia, because I went down the same path. I started going to college for psychology as well. And you're building new neural pathways because your brain's making different connections. It's just a different way. It works and it's adaptive. It's I don't know. It's a lot about what being a real estate investor is all about.
That's
it's
right.
Just
it's adaptive
and being able to pivot. So when your partner says, I want to shut down the company we've been working on for the
Right.
last little bit and start a completely new thing that we've never done before.
Right.
You know,
It's like, okay, well,
say, all right,
I
how
guess
can we
I
make
can
this
do that.
work?
How do
Yeah.
we make it work? What's the plan? What's the strategy? How do we pull it together? I mean, if there's a moral to the story, right? The moral to the story is, whether you're dyslexic, whether you consider yourself to be an artist, whether you consider yourself to feel limited in some way, the educational system may have left you with that. It's like, that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I could either say, gee, I'm so sorry that happened. Or I could say, hey, you know what? Get over yourself. Stand up. You absolutely have the skills. Real estate is a field where you can find your track, because you can be an interior designer, you can be a contractor, you can be an investor, you can be, a flipper, you can be a wholesaler, you can be a people person, you can be a contract person, you can be a project manager.
Yep.
Like, there's a place inside of real estate for almost every personality.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's like, if you're drawn to it, if you feel like you can, don't let some limitation, even an abusive background, like, don't let that be the thing that stops you. You just kind of need to get over it and move forward. And real estate's a place where people can do that. Now,
Exactly.
this is 15 years worth of personal growth and therapy later. I'm just mentioning that because you might need a couple hours with a good therapist to get there.
Right.
But I'm just saying, it's worth it.
Therapy's good. It works for a lot of people, and it's, it's basically what your chapter in the book. You got this. That's the book. It's available on Amazon.com, by the way.
I'm sorry, I don't have it. It's available on Amazon.com. I could go grab it and put it on camera.
Yeah. You got this. It's tips for women to excel in real estate or something like that. I can't remember the exact title, but
but you got this is what you can find on Amazon, and it's a bestseller. It hit the Amazon bestseller the first day it came out.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you guys have a good network to push it out too.
We did.
I bought my copy right away.
Yes.
I bragged about it on Facebook.
You did.
And started with your chapter because I knew you were going to be on the radio, and I was totally going to be prepared and have it. I was going to sign it and all this great stuff. And
oh man,
it's sitting on my desk, ready to leave.
Okay.
But I just never went back in my office.
Well, you just have to drive all the way to Pasadena from the Inland Empire. I'll sign it for you. I promise.
So, it was. But your chapter is very good. It's very encouraging, and it seems like a lot of the book is headed this direction where it's very encouraging, gives you some tips, things to just kind of help you get out of your own way, and propel yourself forward, because you can do this. You do got this. It's not necessarily for women. I know it says for women, but guys can read this book too. It's it's the information's just as valid, across the table. So I'm glad you wrote it. Congratulations on doing that, because I don't think I would ever really want to write even a chapter in a book. So
we had a ghost writer.
There's
no way I could write a chapter in a book.
Okay.
No, that's not a good idea.
So that's the secret that I needed to know.
The secret that you need to know is that somebody talked to me. They let me do it my way.
Got it.
Somebody talked to me. They interviewed me. They came up with a chapter. I edited it.
Okay, because your voice comes across in it.
That's good.
It was you talking to me when I was reading it. So
that's wonderful.
That's
wonderful.
That's good to hear. Do you have anything else you want to promote? We got like a minute left.
FIBI Pasadena. You can find videos of our meeting there. FIBIPasadena.com. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on a Ground Level Con on Twitter. Christina Sutter on, I think, Facebook, as well as on Instagram. So, you can always look up Ground Level Consulting or GLinvestor.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Christina, for coming on today, and thank you all for tuning into the Flip Flop Investor Show.